What's up, everybody? Big buzz going around the league right now, and two names that jumped into the spotlight are CJ McCollum and Chris Middleton. According to some recent reports, both of them might be potential buyout candidates with the Washington Wizards, reportedly not seeing either guy as part of their long-term vision. Now, whether that happens in this offseason or closer to the trade deadline, that's still unclear. But the fact that it's being discussed at all already turns heads. And look, if you're the Lakers, or really any contender looking to add proven experience off the bench, this kind of opportunity cannot be ignored. You're talking about two players who've been all-stars who've produced at a high level for years and who could now be available for nothing more than a veteran minimum contract. That's the definition of low risk, high reward. And honestly, I'd take either one. But if we're comparing fits, Chris Middleton probably makes more sense structurally. But I wouldn't bat an eye at CJ McCollum. In fact, I'd probably smile. Let's break it down because CJ might be exactly the type of veteran spark the Lakers need. We've talked so much about the lack of bench scoring last season. It wasn't just bad, it was historically bad. The Lakers were one of the bottom 5 teams in the entire league in bench points. That's not going to cut it when you're trying to compete with deep squads like Boston, Denver, or even Oklahoma City, who have multiple units that can put up points. Enter CJ McCollum. This is a guy who's been one of the most consistent offensive performers in the NBA over the last decade. Over the last 10 years, he's averaged at least 20 points per game every season. Every single one. That's not normal. That's not something you just find on a waiver wire. Last season alone, even with the Pelicans struggling and CJ dealing with some minor injuries, he still averaged 20, 1.1 points, 4 rebounds, and 4 assists per game. That's coming from your 7th or 8th man if he lands in LA. Think about that. And then there's his shooting. From beyond the arc, CJ is elite. Career 40% shooter from deep and not on low volume. We're talking over 6. 3-point attempts per game for his career. Last year, he took over 8 threes per game and still knocked down 37% of them. The year before that, it was over 8 again, and he hit 43%. That's not just spacing. That's pressure. That's a guy who can shift the defense, who commands attention, and who punishes teams when they sag off or make one rotation mistake. Plus, CJ's not just a shooter. He can create. He can play on ball and off ball. He's played next to Damian Lillard in Portland for years, so he knows how to operate as a secondary scorer or facilitator. And more recently in New Orleans, he's had to adjust and play off guys like Brandon Ingram and Zion Williamson. He's used to adapting. That makes him plug and play ready for a team like the Lakers. You need him to be the secondary playmaker. When LeBron sits done, you need him to stand in the corner and space the floor while Luka or another creator runs the offense. He can do that too. And yes, I said Luka, because the idea of CJ playing off both LeBron and Luka has been floated in some trade scenarios, and it actually makes a lot of sense. Those two are going to draw so much defensive gravity that CJ will feast on open looks. And let's not forget, CJ is not some 36-year-old clinging to the last years of his career. He's 33, will turn 34 in September, and still has plenty in the tank, especially if he's coming off the bench and playing fewer minutes. That keeps him fresh for the games that matter most. Now I get it. Some fans here are over 30 and immediately panic like the guy's ready to retire. But age doesn't matter as much when production is still there, and more importantly, when the role is clearly defined. You're not bringing in CJ McCollum to be your number 1 or even number 2 option. You're not asking him to play 38 minutes a night. You're asking him to give you 15 to 20 high-quality minutes off the bench, maybe close out a few games if he's hot, and provide leadership for a young second unit that often looked lost last season. And let me just say this again. Consistency. That's the word with CJ. Go look at his year-by-year numbers. 21 points, 24 points, 22 points. He's a lock for 20-plus per game, even when the team around him changes. Even when the role shifts, even when he's sharing touches, he still finds ways to score. That's what pros do. And that's why a guy like that on a minimum deal becomes a luxury piece for any team chasing a title. Now let's talk about efficiency. CJ's not just putting up numbers. He's doing it smart. Career 40%. From 3, as I mentioned, but even his 2-point percentage has been steady. Last season, he hit over 50% of his shots from inside the arc. He's got that mid-range jumper, the floater, the hesitation dribble into a pull-up. That old school bag that's hard to guard even in today's spacing heavy league. When you combine that with the 3-point shot and his ability to create for others, you're looking at a guy who can win you a playoff game or two all by himself. And let's not act like he's a zero defensively. No, he's not an all-defense type of player, but he's smart, he competes, and he's not going to be a liability. Last season, he still averaged nearly a steal per game and even contributed half a block. That's more than serviceable, especially when you consider his offensive output. He's also a career 80% free throw shooter. Last season was a bit of a dip, dropping to around 72%, but again, the Pelicans were a mess in general last year. Injuries, lack of chemistry, rotation issues. So that number might be more of an outlier than a sign of decline. And let's not overlook availability. CJ played 56 games last season, which is a bit on the lower side, but the year before he played 66 and the year before that 75. If he gives you 65 to 70 games at this point in his career, that's a win. You're not expecting him to go all 82. You just need him ready when it counts. Playoffs, key matchups, back-to-backs where you're resting stars. That's when veterans like CJ earn their paycheck. Let's also be real. Young talent is hard to come by and even harder to acquire if you're a contender like the Lakers. Any young piece with upside will cost you draft capital, rotation players, or both. If you're trying to swing a trade for someone like Herb Jones, you're probably giving up multiple players, maybe even Austin Reeves, and opening up roster spots that still need to be filled. That's a lot of moving parts. CJ McCollum can be that bridge. He gives you some insurance in case you do make a trade. If you move off Reeves or D'Lo, you got a proven vet who can step in and handle the ball hit shots and keep the offense afloat. This is the kind of move that adds balance to a roster. You can have your young core, Max Christie, Jalen Hood, Shafino, whoever else you're developing, but you also need adults in the room. Guys who've seen playoff battles, who know how to close out a tight game in March or take over a third quarter when your stars are on the bench. CJ McCollum is that dude. He's a professional scorer, a veteran leader, and someone who can quietly change the tone of your second unit. And listen, if the Lakers make a bigger move, let's say they free up some roster space by trading for someone like Andrew Wiggins, and they know CJ is on the way in a buyout, that changes everything. You can go Allen on that move because now you've got depth coming in behind it. Same thing if you manage to bring in someone like Nikola Vucevic as well. Imagine a bench unit with Vucevic and CJ McCollum. That's veteran presence scoring and versatility all in one. Or bottom line, is CJ McCollum the biggest need for the Lakers right now? No. Is he the perfect solution to all their problems? Not at all. But is he the kind of undervalued piece that smart front offices add to win championships? Absolutely. And if he gets bought out, the Lakers, or any team serious about contending, should be making that call without hesitation. Because for what he can bring and at the price he'd cost, it's hard to find a better deal on the market. And remember, this isn't just about what CJ does on paper. It's about how he fits, how he elevates the guys around him, how he gives you options when your rotation gets thin or your stars need rest. He's been doing that for over a decade, and there's no reason to think he can't keep doing it, especially in a role that asks less of him and puts him in a position to succeed. And here's where things get even more interesting. Beyond just the numbers, beyond the production and efficiency, CJ McCollum brings something that every championship team needs: composure. He's calm under pressure, he's intelligent, and he's proven in high-stakes moments. This is a player who's seen the postseason multiple times, who's been part of deep playoff runs, and who's never shied away from the big stage. You can't teach that. You can't just hope your young guys develop that overnight. It takes years of experience, real reps, and real battles. And CJ has those scars and stories. That's the kind of intangible value that doesn't show up in box scores, but can make all the difference in a Game 6 on the road or a tight fourth quarter when everything slows down and every possession matters. And the fit with the Lakers system isn't just theoretical. In Darvin Ham's offense, which leans heavily on spacing, ball movement, and secondary creators who can keep the flow alive when LeBron or Luka are getting blitzed, McCollum is practically tailor-made. He doesn't need the ball in his hands for 5 straight possessions to make an impact. He can go 3 or 4 minutes without touching it and then bang hit a quick 3 off a screen or attack a closeout and float one in. He doesn't force the game. He reads it, flows with it, and adjusts to what's needed. That kind of versatility is crucial on a roster that's already got several dominant personalities. And that brings us to the larger picture. Because in a potential Lakers roster with CJ McCollum, you're not just getting better in isolation. You're improving your flexibility across the board. Suddenly, Austin Reeves becomes a tradable asset. You're no longer clinging to him like your only hope for secondary playmaking. D'Angelo Russell, you got more freedom to move him, explore deals, or even reduce his role if inconsistency strikes again. CJ offers insurance. He's that fallback option who ensures that no matter what combination of guards you end up with, you're not left scrambling if one goes down or falls off a cliff mid-season. This also plays into something broader identity. What is this Lakers team trying to be? Are they relying solely on LeBron and Anthony Davis until the wheels fall off? Or are they trying to build something sustainable, a rotation full of guys who know their roles and can execute them without constant micromanagement? Because CJ McCollum is a player who instantly brings identity. He's a steady scorer, a veteran voice, and a guy who just knows how to play the game. No drama, no guesswork. He's not chasing the spotlight. He just wants to win. And those are the types of players who quietly become playoff heroes. Even looking at his shot profile, it tells you everything. He's not just chucking threes and hoping one falls. CJ is deliberate. He picks his spots, understands angles, uses hesitation and footwork to create separation, and punishes defenses that aren't locked in. He's a killer from the mid-range, a lost art in today's NBA. And that becomes even more valuable in the playoffs when the game slows down and teams take away the paint and the easy threes. McCollum lives in that in-between space, that area where elite shot makers thrive when others start to panic. You put that alongside a guy like LeBron who will find him every time he's open, and suddenly CJ becomes a weapon you can't leave alone, not even for a second. Now, I've seen people bring up his size and defense as potential issues. And look, we're not pretending he's an all-NBA defender, but he's not a liability either. He competes, he communicates, and more importantly, he understands defensive schemes. He's been around too long to be a weak link, especially in a smart system where help rotations are on point. You surround him with length and athleticism, which the Lakers already have plenty of, and his weaknesses become a non-issue. What you gain on the offensive side far outweighs what you give up on the defensive end, especially when the minutes are managed properly. And let's not ignore the leadership element. CJ has been the president of the NBA Players Association. That says something. He's respected around the league for a reason. He's thoughtful, he's mature, and he leads by example. If you're a young player in that Lakers locker room, whether you're Jalen Hood-Schifino or Max Christie or whoever else they bring in, having someone like CJ around is invaluable. He's not just going to teach you how to play basketball. He's going to show you how to be a pro, how to prepare, how to take care of your body, how to stay ready. That kind of mentorship is what turns young role players into future starters. And the Lakers have a history of succeeding when they bring in the right veterans. Remember the 20-20 bubble run. That team was full of older guys who understood the moment. Rondo, Dwight, Danny Green, all of them played key roles even if their stats weren't flashy. CJ fits that mold perfectly. He's a grown-up in the room. He brings calm in the chaos. And again, we're talking about a potential veteran minimum contract. That's peanuts compared to the value he could bring in May and June. The Lakers don't need another superstar. They've got LeBron and AD. They need infrastructure. They need reliability. They need depth. CJ gives them all of that in one package. And with his skill set, even if his minutes shrink or his role fluctuates based on matchups, he'll stay ready. That's the thing about real pros. They don't need 35 minutes to make an impact. Sometimes they give you a 10-point third quarter when the starters are flat. Sometimes they hit a dagger 3 when the other team's making a run. Sometimes they are the steady hand when your star is in foul trouble and the game feels like it's slipping. CJ's done all of that, and he can still do it. Now let's take this further. Let's say the Lakers do land him. What are the ripple effects? Suddenly your second unit starts to make sense. CJ becomes the scoring punch off the bench. Rui Hachimura gets easier looks. Christian Wood, whoever is playing the backup 5, gets space to operate because defenders can't sag off CJ. If the Lakers want to go small with CJ, Gabe Vincent, and Reeves all on the floor together, they can. If they want to play big and slot CJ next to a point forward like LeBron, they can. That's the beauty of his game. He gives you lineup versatility, and that's exactly what you need in a 7-game series when adjustments are everything. And if the Lakers want to make a move before or after signing him, having CJ in your back pocket gives you so much leverage. It makes it easier to part with someone like D'Lo in a package for a two-way wing. It gives you breathing room if one of your guards goes down with an injury. It allows you to experiment during the season without putting all the weight on your young guys. And most importantly, it gives Darvin Ham a trusted option he can turn to when the stars are resting or the game is on the line. Let's not underestimate the buy-in factor either. CJ's not a guy who's going to come in and demand touches or minutes. He's been a top 2 scorer on teams. He's played the lead guard role. He's also played off the ball. He's done it all. So if you tell him, hey, we need you to anchor the second unit and give us 15 solid minutes a night, he'll do it without hesitation. That's what makes him so valuable. He doesn't need the spotlight. He just needs the opportunity to contribute, and he will. And again, if we circle back to his production, 56 games played last season, all as a starter, 32.7 minutes per game, 18 field goal attempts a night. That's a high volume, and he still shot 44.4% from the field with over 8 3-point attempts per game. He's shooting in volume and with efficiency, and those two things don't often go hand in hand. That alone tells you he hasn't lost a step. He's not relying on athleticism that's fading. His game is skill-based, craft footwork timing. Those things don't age as quickly. From 2-point range, he shot over 50%. Effective field goal percentage was 53%. Not elite, but very solid for a guard taking that many shots under defensive pressure. Free throw percentage was down a bit at 71.7. But again, that's below his career mark of 80%. If he bounces back even slightly, in that area his scoring average climbs. And even if he doesn't, the rest of the package is still more than enough. When you add it all up, the scoring, the efficiency, the leadership, the flexibility, the experience, CJ McCollum becomes one of those rare players who can completely change your team's floor and ceiling without needing the ball in his hands. All game. He's an amplifier. He makes your team better just by being out there, just by doing his job at a high level. And for a Lakers team that has struggled with consistency from its role players, especially in the second unit, that's exactly what the doctor ordered. We can sit here and dream about the perfect young two-way wing who hits 42% from deep and defends like prime Tony Allen. That guy's not walking through the door. If the Lakers want to get someone like that, they'll need to trade picks, assets, and maybe key rotation players. But CJ, if he's bought out, he's just sitting there waiting to be picked up. No cost, no risk, and massive potential reward. That's the kind of move that wins you playoff series. At the end of the day, it's about value. What are you getting? For what you're giving up with CJ McCollum, if all you're giving up is a minimum contract and a roster spot, and what you're getting is a proven scorer, veteran presence, and playoff-tested contributor, then it's a no-brainer. This isn't about chasing names. This is about building a team. And CJ McCollum helps you do that. Period. Before we continue, we ask that you leave a like and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss any exclusive Lakers updates. Moving on, in a move that has sent ripples through the NBA community, the Los Angeles Lakers have reportedly shocked the market by announcing the potential signing of Nikola Vucevic, the seasoned big man, currently with the Chicago Bulls. This possible acquisition has become the talk of the town, stirring rumors that the Lakers are aiming to reshape their roster dramatically ahead of the next season. Vucevic, known for his scoring ability and rebounding prowess, could bring a fresh dynamic to the Lakers' front line, which has struggled at times in recent campaigns. Sources close to the organization hint that the Lakers front office has been in deep negotiations, and while no official contract details have been finalized publicly, insiders suggest this could be one of the most significant trades or signings of the offseason. The buzz is that Vucevic's arrival might coincide with strategic moves to complement the team's existing stars, possibly signaling a renewed championship push in Los Angeles.